Okay. So the first question I wanted to ask you is, can you tell us a little bit about your trips in Palestine, both with like the Dream Defenders and like other trips you've had?
Yeah. So I first went to Palestine in January of 2015. I went with the Dream Defenders as part of a delegation of activists and artists and organizers and teachers who were trying to build solidarity between Black Americans and Palestinians, both Palestinian Americans and Palestinians living throughout the diaspora. And on that trip, we traveled a bit throughout the region. We spent time in Jerusalem, we spent time in Bethlehem, we spent time in Khalil, we spent time in Nazareth, we spent time in Haifa. So we were inside of 48 and outside of 48. And in both of those places, we met with different organizations. We learned a great deal about the struggle. And we met with human rights organizations like IDALA. We met with Aswad in Akka. We met with a range of folk. And it was really powerful and compelling. Since then, I've returned many times. Sometimes on delegations that I've been a part of, sometimes on delegations that I've led. And I've also spent a great deal of time there as a researcher, studying the Afro-Palestinian community in East Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And over those many trips and the time that I've spent there, I've met with more organizers, more activists. I've studied communities, worked on a documentary, and I've done my best to figure out how we can draw better connections between Black Americans and really Africans throughout the diaspora and Palestinians throughout the world as well.
Yeah. Since you mentioned it, can you talk to us a little bit about your upcoming documentary, Black in the Holy Land?
Black in the Holy Land is my attempt to help us think about race in the Middle East in a broad sense, and what race means. Both the term, when I say Black in the Holy Land, I really could put air quotes on each of them.
Yeah.
Black means something very specific in the United States. It speaks to often a certain kind of experience, a certain set of experiences, a certain racial identity, and it's a complicated term. So what it means to be Black in the United States is different than what it would mean to be Moreno or Negro in say Puerto Rico or Dominican, or what it would mean to be Aswad or Aswad in Falastin or in Jordan.
Yeah.
All of them. So what I'm trying to do is figure out what race means in these places and how different African descendant communities navigate those experiences, but not just in general, i.e. the Middle East, but especially against the backdrop of historic Palestine.
Definitely.
So what does it mean to be someone from Jericho who's Afro-Palestinian in a certain way, but doesn't identify as Afro-Palestinian? Palestinian, right? And I've been here forever, right? I've been here for hundreds of years, and I can't tell you what country I'm from. Or I could be like Ali Jidda in East Jerusalem, one of the leaders of the community there. His father was Mukhtar of the African Quarter, who comes from Chad, in Nigeria on his mother's side, who can say we've been here for 100 years. We came here before the Nakba, and we helped be part of the resistance, right? Or what does it mean to be an Ethiopian Jew who makes aliyah to Israel, and how is that different than the experience of a Sudanese or Eritrean Christian who is here as a refugee, or Muslim who's here as a refugee? So I'm trying to make sense of all those things. And of course, I use the term Holy Land quotes too, because it's a colonial term, and I'm trying to play against what it means to be in a place that's so French. I know I'm talking about that.
No, thank you. Okay. Yeah. So can you tell us something a specific moment or a few moments that kind of stick out to you? I think your UN speeches were passionate and bold, and I feel like that speaks from a place of very personal experience, seeing things on the ground. It's different from reading things in a book.
There's nothing like this idea of there's a wonderful book that will be coming out soon by a woman named Maytha Hassan, and she talks about this idea of engaged witness, this idea of what it means to not just read about it, but but to be on the ground and see it and feel it, you know, that idea of engaged witness is what I'm animated by when I talk about Palestine. So like, you know, seeing black faces in East Jerusalem made me think about things differently, and looking at children in Khalid struggling and having to go through checkpoints just to get from here to there, and not being able to run up until this corner and then they can't go across the street. Looking at that type of situation, right? Looking at Khan Ahmad, where these people that built a school and a village out of mud and tires, and to watch it any day, any minute, be destroyed for settlement expansion. Seeing that up close, you know, on my way to, one time, it was on the way to Issawiya, there was a checkpoint, what they call a flying checkpoint, you know, when they make on a particular day in the middle of a road because there's a high security threat, right? Whatever that means. It can mean different things. Anyway, and they're watching this 80-year-old man have to pull his pants down for security to go through the it makes you look cry, you know? When you see all those kinds of things, and you say, wow, there's something about this occupation, there's something about this battle for justice and freedom and safety and self-determination that I need to understand differently and more deeply. It left footprints on my heart.
Kind of going off of that, after your speech, there was obviously the huge backlash. So my question to you is, what would you say to individuals who believe in the Palestinian right to freedom, but have seen like what's happening to, what happened to Lan Omar, the attempts to silence any, like speaking up for Palestinians? What would you say to people who are afraid to speak up now?
Speaking up is not something you do because you lack fear, you lack courage, or you lack fear. There's a reason to be afraid. There's a reason to be, for your voice to shake. When you speak powerful truths about any subject. So, I don't fault people for being afraid. I just want people to say, even though I'm afraid, I will speak anyway. And the reason why I want them to do that is because justice requires that we do that. And when we don't do that, we actually make things more challenging, even for ourselves long term. Everyone has to be free for justice to prevail. And if we have numbers, we have volume, and we have a kind of collective commitment to justice, it's much harder to defeat all of us. But when a few people are speaking up for justice, and a bunch of people believe in it but are afraid to, and some people believe differently and they don't say anything, and some people are working against justice, and you have all this stuff happening at one time, it's much easier to defeat us if you, right, you hold on, right? In the Quran it says, right? Hold on to the rope of Allah and don't divide, don't separate yourselves.
Yeah.
Because at the moment that you separate yourselves, it's much easier for justice to not win. So that's sort of how I think about this. Yeah.
Okay, so my last question for you, because I know we're limited on time, is
oh, it's having so much fun.
I really like admire the Black Lives Matter movement, and just like the Black activists, their long history of civil rights and here, and I think there's so much to learn from that history of activism, and I really appreciate your solidarity with the Palestinian people, and I hope that we as a Palestinian community can do more for the Black community in the United States. But my question is, what do you think that we as Palestinians should take from that movement, from the Black Lives Matter movement and Black liberation movements?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the beautiful things about the Black freedom tradition and radical struggle, particularly here in the States, is that it's always had internationalist impulses. Right? We've always looked to the continent, we've always looked to the Caribbean, we've always looked to Asia. And we found strength and solidarity and possibility in other people's struggles and vice versa. Right? So, for me, an internationalist vision is necessary for black folk to get free. I don't want to just think about what it means to be black in America. I want to think about what it means to be black in Accra, Ghana, and what it means to be, an Algerian expat or refugee even in France. I want to think about what it means to be a Yazidi in Iraq. I want to think about what it means to be an Eastern European Jew struggling with against anti-Semitism as it's rising in Europe and the United States and everywhere else. I want us to be thinking about all those issues at the same time.
Yeah.
And so when I think about the Palestinian struggle and what lessons could be learned from our struggle, it's to keep that internationalist vision, so that as a Palestinian American, you're looking back, not as a Palestinian American, as a Palestinian living in 48 or living in the West Bank or Gaza or in Jordan or wherever, you're looking at Palestinian liberation as a piece of a broader struggle that will liberate folk in Yemen, that will liberate women in Saudi Arabia, that will liberate folk in both South Sudan and the southern region of the newly formed Sudan against the Bashir government. Like, what does freedom and justice look like if everybody's not free? And I think the Black freedom struggle has always modeled that kind of commitment to not just intersectional freedom struggle. And we haven't always done that well with regard to gender and sexual identity and such. But to think about these issues, but also to think across the world what freedom and justice could look like. You know, that's something that I think is of critical importance. And to your point, that means that we have to be asking ourselves, does Black Palestinian solidarity just look like Black folk calling for a free Palestine? That doesn't also mean Palestinians saying Black Lives Matter. You know, and what does that look like on the ground on a day-to-day? That's the kind of stuff that I want us to continue to think and struggle with at all times.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that excites me about this moment, because I think maybe more than ever, there's an opportunity, not a reality yet, but an opportunity, a chance, the possibility for Black Palestinian solidarity to emerge and to flourish. But that means that we have lessons to learn from you, Sud, steadfastness. Not that Black folk ain't steadfast, but there's something about the particular ways that plays out in the Palestinian context that are interesting and insightful. Similarly, Palestinians have been transnational for a long time, right? But there's just something about the way Black folk have done it that I think is insightful and instructive. So we have to build from each other, see value in each other, unlearn anti-Black racism, unlearn Islamophobia, unlearn anti-Arab racism, unlearn homophobia, unlearn these things and try to build something bigger than what we started with. I think that's doable, and I'm excited about the possibilities of it all.
Thank you so much for speaking with me. Thank you so much for your insightful answers. There's so much